Welcome back. Special elections are being held in several cities and towns on February 26th to fill some open seats in the General Assembly left open when Governor Lamont hired a few people. One of them is to replace Senator Terry Gerratana. She was also hired by the governor. And with us today, the two candidates vying for her seat, the Democrat Rick Lopes and Republican Gennaro Bizzarro. And gentlemen, we thank you so much for being here on the program today.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis.
First question is, one of the big things I know that a lot of people are wondering about is in terms of tolls. Do you support tolls?
Tolls are an interesting question. Nobody likes tolls. Nobody likes taxes. It's a matter of necessity. We have bills to pay, and how do we pay them? It's a reality that we have a system here where our roads and bridges are declining, our congestion is increasing, it's hurting economic development, and we need to add more money to fix that problem. Tolls is one option. Another option would be raising the gas tax dramatically. And we've learned from experience that raising the gas tax in an era when cars are more efficient has a limited return. So tolls, like our neighboring states, has become a viable alternative. We're seriously looking into that, and should they come up with a plan that works, I would be supporting it.
Mr. Bizzarro, do you support tolls?
Dennis, I agree with Rick only insofar as he says that nobody likes tolls. Nobody in my district likes tolls. I don't like tolls. I'm adamantly opposed to tolls. I think, if you are a single mother living in my district and you're already having trouble making ends meet and you're commuting down to Waterbury at your job as a parent in the Waterbury school system, the last thing you need is to have a new tax imposed on your commute to work. And studies are all over the place. I've seen some studies that should suggest that that kind of commute is going to add between $500 to $1,000 to the average person's cost of living in the state. I think it's a terrible idea. It's a very regressive form of tax, and we've got to start looking at ways to reduce the cost of living burden in the state, not increase it.
Mr. Bizzarro, I'll begin this next question with you, and that is legalizing marijuana for recreational use. Do you support that?
Yeah, no, I don't. I have a real problem, Dennis, reconciling the legalization of recreational marijuana use with my commitment to battling the opioid epidemic in Connecticut. I don't see how the two are compatible right now, and we've got to do everything that we can to combat this opioid crisis. You know, I'm concerned. What I'm really concerned about is not that this opioid epidemic is hitting families, and not that if it hasn't hit a family yet, it's likely to in the near future. But what really frightens me is the amount of families that are out there battling this problem who are unaware of it because the symptoms and the signs are being masked by other things. So I'd be opposed to that.
Do you support that, Mr. Lopes, legalizing marijuana?
As separating it out, I was a strong supporter of medicinal marijuana. I see we did great work in that area. We addressed it much more conservatively than other states, and I think it's working out quite well for us. The issue of legalizing recreational marijuana is probably one of the toughest social issues for me to vote on this year. Personally, not in favor of the idea of people smoking marijuana all the time. I think unlike alcohol, it can set situations where you smoke all the time at work, not at work, and it can affect your life. And like alcohol, it definitely can lead to addiction and problems in your household. Reasons for supporting recreational marijuana revolve around it is very similar to alcohol, and alcohol is legal. And alcohol arguably is worse for you than marijuana. So why would we have one illegal and one legal? And then the other part of it is the criminalization part of it. People go to jail for marijuana, and there are people in jail for marijuana arrests, and is that socially acceptable? Is that moral that we've done that, considering it is something we're considering legalizing now, and surrounding states have all mostly legalized?
Another hot issue this year, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Do you support that?
Yeah, very clearly, I'm a small business owner, construction company. I own a small construction and property management company, and my employees deserve a living wage. They get a living wage. You cannot live in Connecticut for less than $15 an hour. And actually, theoretically, if we were in a perfect world, it should even be higher. And we should follow the course. I was one of the proponents of the $15 an hour bill, and I'm a big proponent of putting on an escalator over the years so it stays track with the economy.
Mr. Bizzarro.
Yeah, I agree with Rick in that when he says that you can't live in this state and you can't support a family on less than $15 an hour. But guess what? You can't do it on $15 an hour either, Dennis. Those jobs that this would apply to were never meant to be jobs that would be primary wage earner jobs for families. Those are entry-level, seasonal, part-time jobs. And here's my fear. My fear is that If we rush to move this minimum wage up too far, too fast, we're actually going to do a lot of harm to the people that we're trying to help, and that is the middle-class families. If you have a business and you employ a certain number of part-time or seasonal workers, and you need that many people in order to make your business run, you're not going to stop hiring those. What you're going to do is you're going to squeeze the people in between who are making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, and you're going to stop them from being promoted and earning increases year to year. That's not what we need in this state.
Obviously, if Amazon were to come to Metro Hartford, it would benefit the communities which you hope to represent in the state Senate. What should the state do to try to lure Amazon to this area?
Well, I think that goes to the broader issue in that we need to have a better business climate in this state. We need to figure out ways to grow the tax base organically. We need to stop battling our businesses and start partnering with them. We need to emphasize the assets that we have. We've got access to every major artery within minutes. All the highways are here. We've got airports that can be expanded. And I think we need to do a better job of highlighting that, make it a better business climate for employees.
Mr. Lopes.
Employers.
Amazon obviously would be a huge advantage for Connecticut to pick up. It is too early in the process to say whether or not, what kind of incentives we should give them to come to Connecticut. It's going to be in negotiations for a while. I really hope they come here. We could use the shot in the arm, but the proof will be in the details on that one.
Do you favor big incentives to bring them, Mr. Bizzarro?
I'd be careful about, we've gone down this road before, and it hasn't worked out for us. I think we need to emphasize the resources that we have in place, and we need to stop taxing businesses out of the state.
Mr. Lopes.
The incentives have to be reasonable. I mean, some incentives could be talked about, but they have to be reasonable.
One of the big wastes of money that many people say is all the money spent by cities and towns on services that are replicated from town to town with these small little borders. It's a 169-town system, colonial system. Bigger, more successful states like Texas, California do it differently in terms of county government. One of the suggestions is to regionalize schools even more. Do you support that?
Yeah, absolutely. Regionalization is the challenge of the next 20 years for our state. I'm fully behind it, but also fully understand the problems fraught with it. I mean, I've represented small towns before, and you go to them and say, well, we don't want you to have your volunteer fire department anymore. You're going to partner with the neighboring town and use their fire department or EMS system. And the resistance to that is unbelievably strong. But slowly but surely, this can't be something we do quickly, but slowly but surely we can move in the direction of regionalization. It will only help the state and bring costs down.
Mr. Bizzarro.
Look, if we're talking about finding ways to maximize efficiencies by regionalizing the operational side of things, then yes, I'm all for it. I'm in favor of anything that we can do to help the municipalities do that. Having said that, there are proposals that make no sense. For instance, there's a proposal to mandate regionalization of school systems based on the existing probate court system. Now, that's a terrible idea unless, again, we're talking about the operation side of it. That's an example of being short-sighted. Education is uniquely local in nature. So the idea that one municipality is going to be in control of curriculum and educational decisions is not the way that we should be doing this.
Gennaro Bizzarro, Rick Lopes, we thank you very much for being in the program today. Best of luck, and we encourage everyone to get out there and vote on February 26th.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. When we come back, our flashback and how are minority businesses viewing the new administration? We'll talk to a couple of business leaders coming up after the break and welcome your comments on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find me on all three.